All right, the Padres are back in action today against the Cleveland Guardians. Hopefully, everybody is doing well. A Padres post All-Star break preview here. A lot to talk about because although we've had a break here, it's given me some time to just, evaluate a little bit on what happened beforehand, but really look at, okay, what's coming up, what to focus on. And initially, I think it's right to start off with the actual games that are going to be played here by the Padres leading up to the trade deadline. Because as we sit here right now, the Padres, they're right there in the wild card race. They're not in a wild card spot. I did see somewhere where someone said the Padres were in a wild card spot, but that is not accurate. They are, I believe, one game out of a wild card spot. Right now, they sit one game over 500, 50 and 49, 7 games back in the division. I'm not worried about the division. I don't think they're going to win the division, but they are one game back of the Mets for that final wild card spot. It is a jammed wild card picture. The Braves, I don't think they're going to catch the Phillies, but they are going to make the playoffs. They are the one. But it's the Cardinals, the Mets, the D-backs, the Padres, the Pirates, Reds, Giants, and Cubs. All of them are within 3.5 games of one another. So less than 4 games of one another. So this is a tight race. I don't know if all of those teams after the trade deadline will actually be in it. Some of them might sell off some pieces, a couple where they might do the buy and sell thing. And it's like, well, are they really in then? The Padres, though, they're going to be buyers. I guess the only question I have is Ha-Sung Kim, whether they would sell him, but I don't know how high his value is, and there are injuries that could happen. Ha-Sung Kim is a valuable player to this team. I know he's been disappointing because I think we thought that he was going to take maybe another step forward or at least have that same performance that he had this past season, and it's been a little bit of a struggle there, but he's still very valuable defensively. And he does have he's one of those soul heart and soul players in that Padres clubhouse, and I think that is a factor as well. And also, obviously, like I just mentioned about the value thing, it's not like you're selling high on Ha-Sung Kim like that in the offseason. That's not what it is. So I would rather just stick with Ha-Sung Kim, and you have options in case injuries pop up. He can play a lot of different positions. I think you'd rather have that at least be on your team there. Um, so there's that. But I think for the most part, the Padres, they're going to be buying. Jeff Passan did say recently on SportsCenter, I think it was yesterday, he said the Padres would love to get Garrett Crochet. He also then mentioned the Dodgers and then some other teams as well. There's going to be some competition there for Garrett Crochet. I think the White Sox, and rightfully so, they're going to have a high asking price. They're going to ask for a return as if they're trading a starter to that team. And there's all this talk about a potential innings limit on Garrett Crochet. So if you're the Padres and you've got injuries in the rotation, you don't know if Darvish is going to come back, don't totally know when Joe Musgrove's going to come back, although it seems like he is making some progress. You have that. You have some other question marks as well in terms of consistency the rest of the year. I don't know if trading for, and by the way, you'd be trading top guys in your farm system as well, trading top talent for Garrett Crochet. I know he could be a starter in the future, but that's a pretty big risk there. And there's some other starters that you could go get that you might not have to give up as much. But that's trade deadline talk. We will get to that, as we get closer to the deadline. As for the schedule, I already laid out where the Padres are right now, their situation. But leading up to this trade deadline, because you might hear that talk. I was going to say their record may indicate, or that may help the Padres decide whether they buy or sell, but I have a hard time believing the Padres are going to be selling unless they lose a lot of games here in this stretch. And I know they're playing good teams, Orioles, Guardians, Dodgers coming. Like, I understand that, but the deadline, I believe, is the day that they start that Dodger series, though. Anyway, I still, where this wild card race is at 50 and 49, if they play 500, let's say they have around the same record, even if they're a game under 500, if this wild card race is still where it's at, they're still going to be a couple of games back, even if they're a game under 500 in this stretch. So I just don't see this Padres team selling when AJ Preller. There's many people that believe that AJ Preller's job is on the line going into the rest of this season. Um, and so their schedule got Cleveland here, 3 games at Cleveland. The starters for that series today, it's on Apple TV Plus, Padres TV the next 2 days. Waldron, Cease, and King. You know, it's interesting. Resetting at the break. So is Waldron the new number one starter for this team? In terms of consistency, yes, he is. In terms of stuff, velocity, big name, it probably would still go to Dylan Cease, and Dylan Cease had an encouraging last outing before the All-Star break, so we'll see how he rebounds, and then Michael King. But those are your 3 guys. We know that. Because after that, it's Randy Vasquez, and then it's who? Don't know. And Preller could make an addition before this trade deadline, or he could do it a couple minutes before the deadline. I feel like the Padres would want to wait as much as they can to see if Joe Musgrove is making progress, because then maybe that would change some of their plans. But I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest, if AJ Preller is trying to get multiple starting pitchers, because he may want someone that's an upgrade over Randy Vasquez for the 5 spot, and have Vasquez be able to be depth, have Brito be able to be depth, have Major be able to be depth, and hopefully he can be ready to contribute at some point if you need him. Have those guys be depth, and then you have 5 starters when Musgrove returns. And then if Darvish, I'm not even thinking about Darvish because that's personal. That's his issue, and he has the right to just say personal reasons. That's totally him. That's totally okay. We don't deserve anything else. I know that was a topic on social media. We don't deserve anything else from you, Darvish. I get it. He's getting paid a lot of money, but he's not getting paid through this. So I'm totally fine with that whole situation there. It sucks, but that's just what it is. It's life. Life is more important than, the baseball here. But so let's say they acquire a couple of guys, then you have depth all of a sudden. If Musgrove comes back, then maybe one of those guys you acquire is in there. Then you've got your 5 starters there. Injuries could happen. There's talk about maybe Michael King hitting an innings limit. But to me, if I'm the Padres, I'm judging Michael King on how he is feeling, on the velocity, on the numbers. I'm not just putting an innings limit on him if he's feeling well. You know, I'm just, if he feels well, then yeah, I'm going to let him pitch. Um, so we've got depth. If the Padres can acquire a couple of guys, if they acquire one, okay, but then we could think about the negative. Like, what if Darvish doesn't return, or he returns, Musgrove returns, and injuries happen, or injuries happen to other guys? Then you're relying, let's say you add one starter, then you're relying on that guy to be healthy and that guy to be kind of like Matt Waldron, and maybe, well, depending on who it is, that person surprise people and pitch well. And then you're relying on the depth that you have as well, and you're relying on health. So the more arms you can get, I would think the better for this Padres team. But we'll see. The bullpen is definitely going to be a topic of conversation as well. How many? I think it's one bullpen arm that the Padres would want to get. But yeah, pitching is definitely the focus right now. There was a tweet that went out the other day. I think MLB Trade Rumors had it about Tercer Ornelas being selected by the Padres. He was added to the 40-man, but Mike Schultz said on Ben and Woods, not necessarily the 26-man. I bring that up because that could be another option for the Padres, and maybe they're trying to, if Tercer Ornelas comes up and gets time, try him out so the Padres have a better idea of, should we attack another bat as well? Is that an area of need that we should attack before the deadline? Or should we mainly focus just on pitching? And if something happens, but we need to focus on pitching. There's questions. Last year, the Padres had that series against the Rangers, and maybe that dictated what the Padres were going to do before the deadline, but I feel like with all the talent in the room there, and AJ Preller probably knew more than we did about Peter Seidler's health situation. With all that, I find it hard to believe that that one series against Texas, all of a sudden the AJ Preller was like, "Nope, all right, we are buying." And if that series went wrong, all of that talent that you had in the room, you were going to sell. I'm not so sure about that. I wasn't the biggest fan of them buying last year, considering the circumstances, the situation they were in. But this year they are in a little bit of a different spot. And I'm seeing encouraging signs, like I talked about on the show recently. I'm seeing encouraging signs from this team about, you know, or it has to do with the fight, the coming back, the talent that's on this team, not quitting, the mindset, the manager. I'm just seeing things where it's like, okay, yeah, this team deserves to have reinforcements come in. I'm not so sure last year's team deserved that. Like they had so many games to prove that they deserved it. And then it was proven to us ultimately that yeah, they didn't deserve it. They got some, but how much of an impact did those guys give? It wasn't like big buying. And I don't know if this trade deadline is going to be big buying for the Padres because if Manny, Tatis, Sander, if those guys don't produce, then it's probably going to be hard for the Padres to go a long way anyway. And the big buying, they already did the Arise, the C steals. Those are big buys this season already. So it feels like it's going to be more of the smaller moves that are going to be crucial to getting to the postseason. I don't know how crucial those moves are going to be when the postseason comes around. But what matters right now is the Padres getting into the postseason. They have the talent. A big factor, obviously, is going to be the health of this team. Updates there, at least that I know of right now. Joe Musgrove. It seems like things are progressing. Hoping for an August return there. Fernando Tatis Jr., he initially thought he was going to be out for the year with that injury, but that's not going to be the case. He is already, Kevin Acee, he had a tweet yesterday, I believe, about the MRI. Fernando had an MRI this week, showed progress in healing the Padres had hoped for. He can continue to incrementally increase his baseball activity. He has already begun playing catch and swinging a bat. So nothing there about running. I assume that the running has not taken place. But if I'm Fernando, the competitor, I want to be doing some baseball activity, the baseball activity that I can do, so I don't have to spend as long of a rehab assignment, in El Paso and Lake Elsinore, and have it be more like a Xander rehab. I would think it would be there's going to be some type of rehab assignment. He's not just going to go right into games. Like, especially if he's going to be playing the field, you want to at least stand in cleats for 7, 8, 9 innings, right? So we'll see about that. But it seems like Musgrove and Tatis, we can hope as Padres fans that they'll return in August. Darvish, don't know. And that's that. But yeah, that's Luis Ariz. Maybe we'll get an update today on his thumb because he sat out during the All-Star game, which I liked. It was a win-win, right? Because he sat out, so hopefully that will help with the thumb. And his family and him still got to experience the All-Star game, like what came with it, the red carpet, all that stuff. They still got that experience there in Arlington, in Texas. So that's great. And so hopefully Arise, I'm not saying everything is going to be fixed today, but hopefully he's in the lineup. Hopefully things feel better. If that's not the case, then he may have to go on the IL. And I believe they could retroactive it to when would that have been? Because he didn't play in their last game so they could retroactive, or maybe it's too late. It might be too late. Dang it, it might be too late actually. I don't know off the top of my head how many days it can be into it, but if they did retroactive it, it would be to I think the 14th. So today would be day 6. Yeah, I think you have to. I think it's like halfway. You have that point, and after that, you can't put it back to the last time that they played. You had to have made a decision, which sucks. But yeah, so hoping for the best there with Luis Ariz. But those are the injury updates that I know of right now. But leading up to this All-Star break, I meant to already get to this, my bad. But Cleveland for 3, and then there's a day off. Then there's 3 games against the Washington Nationals. The Nationals, they're a team that's probably going to be selling. They're 6 games back of a wild card, negative 38 run differential. So that team might look different by the time the Padres get to the nation's capital, or it might be the final series the Padres um, play against a team that is selling, but they haven't sold off their pieces yet. So that's the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Then they go to Baltimore. That should be an interesting series, hopefully a fun series, a competitive series. The Orioles, obviously, one of the best teams in baseball, and the Padres trying to make it to the postseason. And then the trade deadline comes, I believe it's the 30th of July, 6:40 against the Dodgers. So the deadline will have passed before that series begins. So we'll see what the Padres will look like. They may be playing down a couple of players based on trades or whatever at that time. But the 30th and the 31st is the Dodgers, just 2 games. I think those are the last 2 games at home against the Dodgers this year. And then because there were those 2 games in South Korea to begin the year. Then they've got the Rockies, but that's after the deadline. Just skimming through their schedule, Rockies, Pirates, Marlins, Pirates, Rockies. That is going to be a crucial stretch of games there to win a lot of games there. Take advantage of that stretch because the Pirates could look different. The Marlins will look different. The Rockies will look different. Take advantage of that because after that, you've got the Twins. We'll see what the Mets look like. You got the Cardinals who will try to be contending, the Rays, and then September is the Tigers, Giants, Mariners, Giants, Astros, White Sox, Dodgers, D-backs. So there's some series there that will be against non-contending teams, but those series could be challenging because those teams have nothing to lose. Those players are going to be competing their butts off probably because they're trying to put themselves in good position to go make the roster next year for that organization. So, as I said on the show the other day, health is going to be a big key for this Padres team. The big players on this team performing up to expectations. You know, you want the performances of Profar and Cronenworth and Merrill, those performances to continue. But with those guys even playing well right now, look where this Padres team is at. If those guys can play well and you got the key guys coming through, then I think the Padres are in that good spot. So yeah, Padres baseball back. Hopefully you enjoyed this Padres post All-Star break preview. If you have any questions, anything that I didn't cover, feel free to let me know in the comments.